published book dealing with Dr. Martin Luther King called Behind the Public Veil, The Humanness of Dr. Martin Luther King. And Dr. Baldwin, let's see if we can pick up where we left off, talking about those aspects of the book that you'd like for our audience to understand this morning.
Yes, well, I published the book in 2016. Actually, it came out May 1st, 2016. And it builds on Martin Luther King Jr. scholarship, because if you look at the trajectory or developing trends in King scholarship, you'll notice that it started out in 1959 with Lawrence Reddick. You know the name Lawrence Reddick, who published the book Crusader Without Violence, a biography of Martin Luther King Jr. in 1959. Now, Reddick's book initiated what we call the biography genre in King study. But since that time, we've gone through a lot of genres. We've gone through the Black Studies genre in King studies, and I'm honored to have been a part of that with my book, There's a Balm in Gilead. Now we are going through the Christian ideals and ideal genre in King studies, the spirituality genre in King studies, and finally the globalization genre in King studies. So what we are talking about here is an effort to understand Dr. King and his achievements as a person, as a human being. And I see the book Behind the Public Veil as a part of this developing trend, because we want to reclaim the man. We don't want that to get lost, because, you know, if you hold these national holidays and you're always dealing with this mythical figure, this mythological...
Dr. Martin Luther King on the mall.
That's right. That's right. And what Behind the Public Veil is really a part of a developing trend in King scholarship, where we actually look at what King himself was about. Who was this man? What was he about? What was his vision? What was his dream? And I think this, as I said earlier, I think is getting lost in our national celebrations of his birthday.
You often wonder what really would be the status of the African American in America had Dr. Martin Luther King not been assassinated. I know that you can only make conjectures in reference to that. But,
that's right.
But he would have, I'm sure that he would have made a great contribution beyond where we are today.
That's right. He was so human. There are stories that I share in the book about him going to soul food restaurants in Atlanta. There was a restaurant called Beeman's Restaurant, which was located, I guess, about a couple of blocks from the SCLC headquarters on Auburn Avenue Northeast. Dr. King would walk from the SCLC headquarters to Beeman Restaurant. And it was about a couple of blocks away, but it would take him an hour to get there because he was
stopping along the way.
Talking to winos,
yes, that's
winos,
right.
talking
exactly,
to homeless people, to street people. He had such a human touch. And I think that more than anything else speaks to what he had to offer humanity.
Good.
It's not about all of the awards, all of the accolades. It's about the human touch. He was able to walk with kings and queens, and also walk with the winos and the homeless. And when you have those kinds of qualities, I think it speaks to the contributions that one can make to the uplift and empowerment of humanity. He had so much to offer, and I think it's tragic that he was assassinated at age 39.
Very good. And of course, Dr. Baldwin, in view of some of the things that you know about Dr. King, where do you think we stand today in reference to the political situation, and should we participate in the political arena, et cetera? I think we need to know more about that.
I think Dr. King would be very concerned about where we are on the political scale of things today. If you look at Donald Trump, if you look at what's happening with the Hillary Clinton campaign, Bernie Sanders, I think he would be very disturbed with the level of what I would call the unpresidential that's going on.
Nature of all of that.
The unpresidential nature of what's going on. Dr. King believed that one should exude a spirit of of love, of acceptance, of virtue, of morality, even in the context of politics. And I think he would be disturbed with a lot of what's going on, but I think he would urge those who are concerned about the future of our nation, about the beloved community, bringing people together, irrespective of racial differences, class differences, religious differences. I think he would have a lot to say to us about that, is that we should keep our eyes on what the American dream means.
Okay, very
and
good.
it means bringing people together, not putting up walls, not setting up barriers, but creating bridges of understanding and goodwill and cooperation. I think he would have a very powerful message to deliver to us in this political season.
And he would certainly urge all of our people to participate, well, not our people, all people to participate in the political processes.
I think he would see it as a moment of urgency, because we don't want our nations to fall into the hands of the wrong leaders. Leaders that will divide us, leaders that will cause all kinds of tragedy and confusion and uncertainty for the future. I think he would be very concerned about that today.
Yeah, and so in a real sense, you think that by demonstrating Dr. Martin Luther King from that perspective, that it will be encouraging to a large number of other folks that might know.
I think the King legacy has a lot to teach us about how we might deal with what's going on today in political circles. I really think so. Dr. King always said that morality and ethics also apply to politics.
You got to have to.
Exactly. You got to have,
because if you're going to lead folks, you ought to be some credibility in terms of where you're leading them.
Yeah, and then you got to exude those kinds of qualities of leadership, which has to do with ethics, which has to do with altruistic concerns. That is, being concerned about the welfare of all people, and coming up with policies that benefit the common good. I think this is what Dr. King was about, and I think we need to revisit. And I think this is what the book Behind the Public Veil is about. It's about revisiting the images of Dr. King. What was he about? What values did he put before us? How did he translate those values into practical action and practical reality and public policy? Exactly. And this is what we are about.
Very good. And I think we've got about a minute and a half, Dr. Baldwin, before we end this show for today. But I think that what you have in terms of this book, I think it can go a long way in terms of bringing more people into this whole discussion in reference to civil rights and whatever, and I think it leads the way in terms of pointing us to where we ought to go and where we can go.
Yes. I'm working with a group of Vanderbilt professors now on a new book on King called Revives My Soul Again. And the subtitle is The Spirituality of Martin Luther King Jr. What we are actually doing is building on the book that I've just written, Behind the Public Veil, to humanize King and to put him before the public as a human being who had a higher human and ethical ideal that he was striving for. And that if we read him carefully and learn from him, then we too will strive toward those human, those high human and ethical ideals.
That no matter who you might be, you can always emulate something that's greater than who you are.
And we're all struggling for this greater idea.
Very good. And of course, let me thank you, Dr. Baldwin, over the last half minute that we have here for bringing by that information. And that's why we continue to call upon you. Because not only do you bring a book every time you come, but you bring so many ideas and so many things that we never thought of in terms of who Dr. Martin Luther King is and who he was.